If you were to ask me what in my life I'm most proud of, the answer may surprise you, but it would certainly make a difference to me. A lot of people think that, what I'm most proud of, or what people are most proud of, are associated with accomplishments like my bachelor's degree or my master's degree, or the books that I've written, or professional status that I've achieved, or doing keynote presentations and all the stuff like that. But the truth is, none of that is what I'm most proud of. The truth is, if you ask me what I'm most proud of, to me, it's a really, really clear and simple response. And what I'm most proud of is I grew up in a really difficult living environment. My father was a very angry and abusive man. And I tell people all the time, like the physical abuse that I was subjected to wasn't something that was the most challenging. The most challenging was the emotional things that took place and the verbal things that took place. It was a really, really hard childhood. And even as I was living it, I was aware that statistically, the odds were against me in becoming something that rose above that environment. And to be honest with you, even the fact that I've become something more than a statistic is not what I'm most proud of. What I'm most proud of is when I was 19 years old, my father came to visit. I was living in Texas at the time in college. My father came to visit me and my brothers. By this time, my parents were divorced, and me and my two brothers were living in Texas. Two of us were in college, my younger brother and I, and my older brother was working somewhere. And my dad came to visit, come to Texas, and we had gone out to hang out. And one of the things we did was go see a movie. And walking out of the movie, my older brother made a comment that made my father upset. And without going into too much detail, a big physical fight took place. And it was my older brother and my dad got in this big altercation right there in the parking lot, leaving the movie theater. It was really, really bad situation. And I was driving that night. I'll never forget this night. I was driving that night, and when we broke up the fight and everything kind of simmered down a bit, and we got into my car, and my father, I got in the driver's seat, and my father got into the passenger seat, and he slammed the door. And for some reason, to this day, I can't explain why, but I had had enough. I had had enough of the abuse, the disrespect, the emotional turmoil. I had had enough. And I turned to my dad and I said, I'm not going to start this car until you close my door like a civilized person. I had never stood up to my father in such a way in my entire life. And now here I am, 19, and for some reason, this is the moment. My father looked at me like I was crazy. My father turned to me and he looked at me like, the audacity of you to say such a thing to me. And I said, I'm serious. I'm not going to start this car until you close my door like a civilized person. And my dad got out and walked to his hotel, which was a 3-4 mile walk along a highway. And my little brother decided to walk with him. So my father gets out of the car and starts walking, yelling curse words as he does it. And my little brother said, I'm going to go walk with Dad. And my little brother went and walked with him. And I remember sitting in that car as my father walked, and I was really, I'd never stood up to him before, and I never held my ground with my own boundaries. And I had turmoil about it. I wasn't proud of it at that moment. I can tell you, I was just, I had a lot of turmoil about it. I decided to drive to my hotel, the hotel where my dad was staying, because I didn't want my little brother stranded. And my older brother and I just sat in the parking lot waiting on my father and little brother to arrive. My father arrives at the hotel, and he completely ignores us, and he walks into the hotel and he goes, my little brother comes, gets in the car, and we drive to where we live. I got to the hotel and I called my dad and I said, I don't mean to sound disrespectful. I don't mean to be harsh, but I have to create a life that is devoid of being yelled at, disrespected, hurt, punched. All that stuff has to change. It's got to change tonight. And my father hung up on me. Now this was before like cell phones. You know, we still had like, you know, those recorder. I mean, we had cell phones back then, but we still had those voice recorder answering machines that had a little tape in it. So I called his cell phone and told him all those things, and he hung up on me when I said it. So then I called his home, obviously, because I knew he wasn't there, so I could leave a message that he would one day get. And I basically told him, my commitment to myself is I will not have a life where people can yell at me, curse at me, hit me, or cause me emotional turmoil anymore. It has to stop, and tonight's the day. Today's the day that I'm deciding to stop it. And the thing I'm most proud of in my entire life is no one's ever cursed at me, hit me, disrespected me, caused me emotional turmoil from that point forward. I have been able to keep that promise to myself, even though it's been difficult, even though it cost me the relationship with my father. I've been able to keep that promise to myself. That means the people around me have not experienced the trauma that I went through as a child, and it means the world to me. And the reason why I think asking questions like, so what are you most proud of in your life, matters so much, because once I remember that about myself, I am different. When I remember that I have been able to create a life that is completely different than the life I grew up, it does something to me. It does something to my ability to cope. It does something to my ability to create. It does something to my ability to perceive. It impacts the person that I am. I don't need a suggestion. I don't need anything except to be reminded of who I am when I'm at my strongest and I'm at my best. Because I now know when I'm at my strongest, when I'm at my best, I can do things that statistics say I'm not supposed to be able to do. I can do things to make my life healthier. I have a level of strength that I didn't know that I had until my door got slammed on that one night when I was 19 years old. I've gone on to use that strength in many, many ways. And when I have difficulty in my life, I remember who I am and why it's so wonderful to ask clients questions like, what are you most proud of in your life? It helps them remember who they are. And it's beyond just their accomplishments, right? Who cares if you're a doctor or a lawyer or whatever? It's all about like, what is that moment when you took control of your life and you did something different? And you know, some of you might be listening to this and think, well, what if a client doesn't have those moments? We all have those moments, even if they are even if subsequent to that, we struggled some, but we all have those moments. I remember when I was working in my first job in this field was working at an agency, and I was working with people who were working to overcome drug addiction. And I'll never forget, I was so blown away by this one guy. He said, there was a guy who walked in and he could tell it was his first day at this group meeting. So this guy was really experienced in the world of 12-step programs and things. This person had a significant addiction history of his own, and he walked over to this person and he said, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you just stare at your watch for 60 seconds? And the guy looked down at his watch for 60 seconds. And he said, hey, can you do that again? And he looked down at his watch for 60 seconds. He said, how about one more time? Can you do that again? And the guy looked down for 60 seconds and he said, never let anybody tell you that you can't not use drugs for 3 minutes. And I was like, wow, I mean, that's what he was doing, was reminding the person that he has agency over his problems. And what I remembered was I had agency over my life. And once I remembered that, my life changed. So when you're working with clients, I want you to believe in them. And I want you to ask them questions without any preconceived notions about what their responses might be. And I want you to ask them what in their life they're proud of. And not just so they'll blow you away with their story, so they will blow themselves away by reminding themselves who they are. And once people remember, solving a problem becomes secondary. You know, I am no longer afraid of problems in my life. I'm not afraid of change. I'm not afraid of tough moments. I'm not afraid of hard work. And it's because I remember that night when I was 19 years old, I decided to live a life without abuse, without anger, without without pain. And I now know that I'm the type of person who can keep that promise to myself for 23 years. And when I remember that, then overcoming one life circumstance, even though the life circumstance may be challenging in itself, but I remember that I'm kind of a badass too. Like the problem that I'm facing may be difficult, but I also remember that I'm a little bit of a challenge to that problem as well. You know, it reminds me of that old quote, you know, when the man whispered, "I am the storm." You know, the devil says, "Beware of the storm," and the man whispers back, "I am the storm." You know, I get to remember that, yeah, the world can throw some stuff at me, but I'm a bit of a hassle myself. I can handle some stuff. And when you remember that, your capacities go up. And I want you to bring that lesson into your therapy sessions. I want you to, when you're working with a client who's had a tough time, I want you to remember you're talking to someone who's at some point in their journey been a badass. Maybe not the whole journey, maybe not the whole time, but at some point in the journey, they have been the storm. And part of our questioning has to tap into that and help the client transform into that person. So maybe a solution-focused conversation doesn't do anything at all to the problem, but it does something to the person who's experiencing the problem, and then they become capable of overcoming it just by remembering they're a habitual overcomer of problems. And that in and of itself is valuable information and has unbelievable transformative qualities. And I know that subjectively from my own life. I didn't need to learn that in a book. I didn't need to be taught that in some theory class. And I didn't need to be taught that in a therapy session. Life taught me that. And I want you to remember that when you're working with your clients, and ask them questions about what in your life you're most proud of, and help them find that hero moment, help them describe what it's like to be that hero moment, help them to describe where they found that hero inside of them, and watch their life change, because it's a magical experience. So I hope this video was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Please comment below. I love to hear your thoughts about my videos. All of you who send me emails and comments, like, I adore you guys. Please like and share. Help me spread the message. Solution-focused brief therapy, I think, is underrepresented in our field, and I need your help to help me spread these words and spread this message. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you.